Afternoon, it is Shirley with Spirit of Matter. And can we give a shout out to this mid-heaven conjuncting Jupiter as I begin, not pre-elected? And forget for a second that the ascendant is on the 11th degree of Leo, with the Sun 24 degrees Capricorn in the 6th house. Mercury sitting pretty on the anaretic degree of Capricorn, it's the 29th degree. And the moon, oh my god, on the degree of to kill and be killed. In Pisces in the 8th house, applying to conjunct Neptune. So the light thing to do, this is no longer a Luna day, it's already actually a Venus night, Mercury hour. With Mercury in the 1st degree of Capricorn, Venus in the 5th house. One thing, Venus at its joy. And I realized that this Venus applying to square Neptune is bringing up the relationship drama. And I made an earlier video about this. But I want to remind us a couple of timeless teachings about outer planets to inner planets relationships. So if you take a look at the caption, okay, for this video, you see a beautiful sky with the sun shining, but there is a dirt line. There's literally dirt on the window. This was taken from a bus. There's a dirt on the window. And it's very much how these type of connections can feel, okay? Because when we talk about hard aspects, we're talking about Venus. And right now, Venus is also in conjuncting. Thank you, Yair Tribelski, because I forgot about this in conjunct. She's in conjuncting Uranus as well. And she is squaring Neptune, applying to square Neptune. And Neptune sextiles Pluto, so we can't really separate from a Neptune to Pluto. And now we get Uranus joining the mix. When we talk about relationships that have a Neptune-Pluto theme, let's begin with Pluto-Neptune, okay? Uranus usually, if it's not in like, sexual boundary violation, and I do not wish you for that to be the case, and it can be like affairs, cheating, stuff like that, but mostly it's something you need to express about yourself, some creative endeavor, some creative urge that you need to express, and Uranus is going to make sure that you liberate yourself. But Neptune-Pluto themed relationships are dealing with learning how to stand in our power, Pluto, which usually means oscillating between feeling powerless to abusing our power. And there is a lot in common between feeling powerless and abusing our power, because people who abuse power usually feel powerless, okay? They don't feel powerful, okay? When they don't know what energy was violating my boundaries, because my ex-psychologist, he at one point talked about, I think, my sexuality or my body. He said, do you know what power it has over me? And I'm like, we had astral sex. I said, okay, we are together in this, like we have power together with each other. Like, where is the problem if we both there willingly? I don't abuse my power, but because he felt like he's disempowered, he was violating my boundaries and even my sexual boundaries after I had willing interaction with him intimately. Not supposed to be, but I'm saying this on purpose because I'm not blaming a person for what he does, okay? Not that it's okay in that context, but I'm not going to say this person violated when he didn't. But unfortunately, later he was also violating these boundaries. That is not okay. He was acting from a position of feeling disempowered, okay? It's nothing, okay? It's no reason to feel this way. But it is an experience that overwhelms the person and causes them to actually abuse power, okay? And so Pluto-themed relationships in hard aspects can be very difficult because a person oscillates between feeling completely powerless to feeling omnipotent. Okay? And when we talk about intimacy, when we talk about sexuality, we understand that these are some of the harshest experiences that people experience with intimacy. Okay, be feeling powerless in a relationship. Pluto, Venus is also about wealth. Okay, and that can be Pluto to your 7th house ruler, 5th house ruler, or even to some extent Pluto in the 12th synastry. Okay, because 12th house is bedroom, but also the blind spot, kind of like your unconsciousness, if you use this word, but what you don't know that you don't know. This is basically what it is. And or 8th house relationships can also have this theme. And so right now we are at the transit that raises the awareness to the things that can go either too extreme in terms of power relations between people, and when we talk about Neptune, ideation and devaluation. Okay, so themes, but people used to call it borderline or narcissist. And I think we are, with Rahu in Aries, is a good time to take the essence of the teaching of knowing what is a red flag, of protecting, of asserting our boundaries, but also take our autonomy back to whom it is accessible, and let go of tagging people with psychiatric disorders and stuff like that, to go back and forth between borderline, narcissist, and so on. But just look at the dynamic, okay? Because eventually people are people. And the dynamic is such that a person can feel extremely powerless, and they can abuse power. And so Neptune can bring a type of dependency where you have a deep longing for that you don't know how to meet, and there is great grief attached to it, and so it can put you in a situation where you think you're gonna meet it. There is an ideation of the person that you meet, or ideation as a dynamic in the connection. This is going to save me. And in the beginning, falling in love is intoxication, so you feel like you're functioning, and maybe you will continue to be functioning, and somebody is helping you to feel better. A person came to me, he was using gaslighting, but other than that, one thing, he was smoking, and I don't like the smell of smoke, and he was really trying. I don't know what he wanted, okay, but we were sitting and talking for a while. I let him introduce himself to me, and I also wanted to know who this person is, because it seemed like he knew me from like social media or so. I didn't know. And so we sit for a couple of hours, and then this person says to me, for the while that I'm with you, I don't feel like the need to smoke. And immediately I knew that there is something Neptunian going on. I don't remember the transit, yes, but there was something Neptunian going on, because he cannot be dependent on me on his habits, okay? To stop smoking is something that he should be able to preserve also if he's not next to me, if it doesn't work out, right? And these are Neptunian themes, is where we feel in something, a sense of connection, but in such a way that we put so much on another person that if this doesn't work well, we go back, whether it's to smoking or to drinking or to some sort of addiction pattern, to fill in the blank. And now, yes, human connection is a genuine need. Romantic connection is also a genuine need. It's absolutely true. That being said, we also need to find ways to kind of dissolve the intensity around how we meet our needs. Again, I previously talked about, I was thinking about, why do I want relationship? To be happy. And then I have a cat and I'm very happy. And so relationship takes a proportional place a more proportional place in my life. Okay, I don't use it like to fill a void, okay, emotionally. And so I have more realistic appraisal. Okay, well, so what is relationship? I want to remind you of those things. So Neptune is more like either thinking you're going to be saved by this person. Oh, when I'm next to this person, I don't need a cigarette. I don't need to spend too much. I don't need to eat too emotionally eating. Okay, this person cannot be your whole life pole, and meeting your needs is important. It's not like you can be all alone and, yes, it's important to meet our needs. It's important to have, if you are romantic, then to have romantic, way to meet this longing and so on and so forth. I'm not saying, oh, you are all alone and you have to be happy all alone. I'm not saying that, but it's also important not to go to the other polarity. Neptune, Pluto together will take you through those polarities, okay? Feeling disempowered and feeling omnipotent until you find a point where you are in your power, okay? Not disempowered and you're not omnipotent, but unfortunately it takes time to do this. And with Neptune is ideation, devaluation, okay? To understand you're dealing with a person, some things you like, some things you don't. But even when you think you understand this, sometimes it can be not an illusion, but more like there is some sort of addictive pattern going on there, okay? And the combination of Neptune and Pluto themed relationships is where you're walking in a cloud and there is a void within, there is a deep longing, but there's also a sense that I found this, there is a spiritual connection. The spiritual connection is real, okay? I want to make, maybe one person feels, one person doesn't feel, you have to look at the synastry. But it's not that there isn't a spiritual connection. We are all souls, okay? We all have some journeys with each other. It's not that you are imagining, okay? The Neptune, to be able to absorb love, okay, going to the moon, going to the personal planets, as I spoke previously, and doing remediation or improving upon them can really help, because connection we get through the moon, not through Neptune. Aspiring to eternity, a spiritual sense of spiritual life, then we get through Neptune, okay? But it has less place to gap a void within our soul and fill it with longing to eternity when we do meet our personal needs in this world, okay? And this is what the moon, Venus, or passion, Mars, but is not on Neptune alone, because Neptune is the art, Neptune is the song, and Neptune is the intoxication itself, okay, the sense of intoxication in itself. And Neptune is a feeling that, oh, I am saved, okay? Yes, of course, if your life was in danger and you are saved in some way, and it was genuine, then you are saved, okay? But in the hard aspects, that can create a very unhealthy dynamic where one or the other is constantly in trouble and needs to be saved. And the savior also has some grief that they tend to buy saving, okay? For example, sometimes I think psychologists, they glorify this a bit. For example, after the Ukraine war, okay? They gave children stuffies, which is not bad, but the children were supposed to take care of the stuffies as though the stuffies were the children. And while this is not terrible, when a child is in need of care, it needs to be held. It needs to be receiving love, okay? Just to give is important, it's good, but also to be receiving love, Okay, when I say I have a cat, she brings me a lot of joy. This cat sleeps with me. She's present with me. She came to me to my room. Okay, yes, it's reciprocal, but I receive care, love, protection. Okay, those things. Yes, I don't neglect my needs to be there for as a caregiver. I don't go out of myself to be. And again, I'm not saying that caring for another to kind of keep your head above the water is a bad thing and you should not do it. No, I think that a sense of good awareness is okay, and not to neglect your own personal needs and to tend to your needs in whichever way is available. You can tend to, tending to the moon. The moon is what you need to feel safe. It's where the moon is at. It's not where Neptune is at, unless Neptune and the moon conjunct each other. But this is so important for people to remember as Venus is applying to square Neptune. Okay? There is this sense of, oh, I am saved, or I need a savior. People can also turn this to religion. Oh, if I believe in Jesus, Jesus will save me from everything. Do you know the sentence, God helps those who help themselves? Okay? Then it is okay to tend to things, to use spirituality and so on. But also there is a sense where if you look for a savior, okay, then in many cases you will find it by the personal planets intending to them more so than by eternity itself. With the hard aspects, with the harmonious aspects, it's the song that gets you through a breakup. It is the painting that you have. It's the conversation over nothing that is just joyous. It's a good glass of wine that is not from addictive pattern. It's all these things, eroticism and melting and merging and telepathic while staying with feet on the ground and not interpreting in it something that it isn't, okay? It's those things, but right now we're not there. So I'm making this video for the hard aspects. Now you can understand how looking for a savior and feeling powerless are very adjacent. And so Neptune sextile Pluto, when it is in hard aspect to Venus, to the ruler of the seventh, then it brings in themes of relationships, longing for relationships, and disillusionment from relationships. Okay, it's the romantic transference, and it is the it's thinking, oh, maybe I'll have a glass of wine when you know you don't feel well when you drink alcohol. Maybe I'll have a beer, and you don't have to be alcoholistic, okay? You don't have to be an alcoholic. You don't have to be addicted. Okay, I was thinking as the moon is applying to Neptune, I was like, oh, maybe I will buy a glass of wine and celebrate this conjunction. And then I was like, well, but mostly when I drink alcohol, I don't feel good. I don't feel elated. I actually feel depressed and angry. And waiting for this to go away, okay? But Neptune can make you forget about this and say, oh, maybe I will celebrate. The idea of sitting with a glass of wine, making myself a nice meal, sounds very good. But the praxis, not so, okay? Especially not when the moon is growing. And so if you are having like a tendency to some sort of addiction, yes, that can be even more difficult. But it can even be just the imagination that something will be pleasurable, while the reality is it is not what you imagined it to be. Okay? Neptune, Venus, hard aspect, I said also on a financial level, there's a great longing that you try to meet while, making a purchase or something like that. And so it can be draining on the wallet, draining on the budget. But mainly it is a time to remember that both the fact that there is a sense of surrender with Neptune, it's kind of like a wave that will take you back to shore, okay? And there is a process of oscillation between extremes with Pluto. It doesn't mean that you are borderline. It doesn't mean that you are bipolar. It means that you are going through a phase of finding your center and sustaining it that has longevity for the phase, okay? And so if you have this natally, then this phase might be longer, but it's not something that necessarily can work. So you'll have to find your way of tending to this relational topic, okay? And the DSM is not going to be of assistance unless you need like monetary assistance because of it, okay? And that can be the case for some people, okay? I used to think it was the case for me before the Me Too, and then I realized the organized crime in the works in the public and private sectors, and I was like, okay, there's when I take responsibility and I find my own center, I see that I'm not the only one here who needs to find her own center, but there is a lot of crime, corruption, and so on and so forth. So, yes. So this is also important to remember. If you have this natally, then finding your center, feeling in your power, okay? Not suffocated, not suffocating, okay, in your power, because Pluto is very intense and it wants to feel things deeply, and it goes through the core of things, okay? It goes through the core of an experience, and it requires you to go through the core of an experience to purge it and to let go, okay, which can be very difficult, but also Neptune requires you to have compassion for the fact that you don't have compassion for yourself. Okay? It's those type of things. When you talk about self-love, if that is in some way associated with this, then it's about radical acceptance of the fact that you currently don't feel self-love. Again, can take even decades or a decade to from the point of awareness, oh, this is a place where I don't feel so much, shining, glowing or loving myself in this, and to go through the radical acceptance is very important with both Pluto and Neptune. Acceptance, validation, and points of interferences. Yes, absolutely. And so you must understand when there's outer planets at play, going to your personal planets, yes, it's not going to be very alluring to try, and even if you talk about, oh, mother your inner child, okay? Sometimes it's about being a child. Sometimes it's about being a child, okay? It's more, it's not something that, just awareness solves it. Not necessarily. Okay, if you have a longing, the longing is real. I'm going to take it to the financial level when I think it was Mars was applying to square Neptune. I bought myself essential oils, and it's not like I had a lot of money, but I made blends with essential oils. Are they going to save me? No. Are they going to be a business that I start making money now in this economy with people associating me with certain groups? No. it's probably not going to play out in this way right now. But the deep longing to do something creative is something that they studied, and to apply this again, and to celebrate this, it remained, and it was something that it was so pressing to do, even when I didn't have the wealth to afford this, it was important, okay? And that was my Mars, that was my Mars issue. What was my Mercury Neptune? I don't remember what was my Mercury Neptune. I probably did spend some money, but I'm not sure what was this about. My Mars Neptune for sure was like the essential oils and some beautiful, I found good oils and stuff, but my Mercury, it was not long ago, and I don't remember this. I don't know. And so Venus today, I bought food, and I was like, I will cook. And literally my womb, I'm about to have my moon days, but my moon's kind of telling me, I don't want to cook. I'm not going to be cooking. I don't want to cook. And I bought stuff like a nice sauce and some noodles. Everybody has ramen on YouTube, so I wanted to make sure I have some noodles. And eventually it's kind of like I managed to buy some liver pasta, some onion, purple onion, and I have some bread. And this is what I ate, and I ate some marshmallows. Okay, this is what I cooked. Okay. Some veggies, I just ate them raw, okay? I didn't even slice them or anything. This is what I cooked. So this was my Venus square Neptune. I'm going to cook myself a meal. Maybe I will drink a glass of like wine. I will celebrate this when my womb is like, are you gonna buy me meat? Are you gonna buy me food? I'm not cooking dinner for one right now. I'm not doing this. So this is a kind of also the reality check, okay? Usually in these times, if you have like a partner, then they can take care of the cooking and stuff. But it can be something as simple as that, okay? What are you going to cook? Where are you traveling, my dear? You're about to have your moon days. What cooking? Who is going to cook? So it can be something as simple as that. Sure, I will make myself a nice meal and have some this and with the last month for the week. Yes. And you must understand the longing to nourish myself in this way, to celebrate, to enjoy. Sure enough, when Venus is going to sextile Neptune, it's very likely I'm going to use that sauce. I'm going to invite me. Maybe I'm going to even drink some like nice white wine that I know that I'm okay with. Okay? But right now, it's not the time for this when I'm about to go zombie for a week or so. Okay, right now, not the time for this. It seemed like I could do this. And when you have this with relationships, it can get various degrees of risky, again, depending on your natal placement, okay? It can simply be dating someone thinking, oh, I found the one, we get along so well together, okay? Maybe he smoked one cigarette, oh, he will quit, everything is fine. And then, Venus releases from the square, and you're stuck with the person that wants to wake up in the morning and smoke 5 cigarettes when you can't stand the smell, and so on and so forth. And he thinks that you are okay with this, and finally he found someone who radically accepts him, you'll have to let each other go. But if you have also hard aspects, then this is going to bring up those themes, okay? Even for me, I have my Juno, which is like the spouse, opposing Neptune, yes? With Jupiter in Capricorn. You can see why I'm single in one post. And the ruler of my 7th and Venus, both opposing Pluto, okay? They try Neptune. Yes, that's the gift. They try Neptune, but they oppose Pluto. Okay? And so it brings in those issues. You may have thoughts about something, or revelations about something, or memories of the past, and stuff like that. Or what decisions have I made? What has brought me to the place where I am right now? Yes, it's not a bad thing, but depending on where you are with this, okay, depending on where you are on this topic, because Neptune will tend to bring you to ideation. There can even be people you have great telepathic relationship with, but when you meet each other, the communication just doesn't work. And it can be something you bring from your natal chart. If you have hard aspects between Mercury and the Moon, it's difficult to find the right words. You feel something and you say another. It's not because you are lying, but because the words are opposing your emotions. Okay, so the words come out and it's not the right word, it's communication. And then you will need to find your way, maybe work with a talisman that has moon sextile or trine Mercury. Or work with the Mercury talisman that is a better communicator, and work with the moon separately. I don't know. It's a trial and error. More things that can come up with these. Venus is also in conjuncting Uranus, and so the in conjunct is an interesting aspect because it oscillates between something where some sacrifice has to be made, but Uranus is not a fan of sacrifice. Okay? Sacrifice is more a Neptune word, but Uranus is more about radical liberty, radical liberation. Okay, with Uranus in Taurus, people have to be explained that no, raping someone is not liberating your people. Okay, it's causing trauma that will make it very difficult for the soil to be fertile, for your people to be free. Yes. And so, no, torturing and raping people is not liberty. Okay, but Uranus is finding it difficult to have a sacrifice because it has a little bit of a silly walk. Okay, it can't fit in a frame. So you have to be creative about it. The frame, the society, it has to change itself to be inclusive of Uranus. And so this hard aspects to Uranus or the inconjunct is particularly difficult because it's like water and oil. They don't go. Venus is about bringing things together and feeling free together. Venus Sagittarius is about feeling free, more free with a person than without a person. Okay, and feeling free without a person as well. Venus in conjunct Uranus. Uranus in Taurus is about taking the old-fashioned views of relationships, of assets, of beauty, and turning them upside down. One of the most beautiful things that I saw with Uranus, Venus, was a woman that had, I think she had birthmarks or something like that, and she said, oh, the moment that I decided to use makeup for my joy and not to cover up my face. And she was putting just makeup, just regular makeup, like accentuating her brows and some blush and stuff like that, without covering her birthmarks. And she was so beautiful. It was just like beauty like I haven't. It's just so unusual and beautiful. And the aesthetics of it was like, oh my gosh, this is so Uranus Venus. This is one of the most beautiful, because Uranus is about radical acceptance and Venus is beauty. So it's a radical acceptance as a value, and then the aesthetics of it is just, wow, is something beyond description, okay? And so Uranus is radical, But in the inconjunct, the type of freedom that Venus wants is not accessible to her in those relations with Uranus, okay? And yet the understanding that some radical freedom needs to be. And we choose one value over another value. Okay? A Venus square in opposition to Uranus, this is already, some of those affair sparks, and I've been talking about this quite some. But if we bring the Uranus, Neptune, Pluto themed relationship, then it is more like a sudden affair that mixes power oscillations, okay? Like, so for example, the myth that if two people are committed, the third party is the one that is interfering. And even if we don't take it to all gold places, is usually the committed person, and they usually abuse power. Okay? And it is just so. It is just usually the other partner, first of all, usually the other partner is younger. Either it's like equal power and both of them are in relationships and it's kind of like extramarital, or it is that the other partner is younger, man or woman, okay? It's not about gender. And there's just something that calls, and usually it's a Uranus transit in the natal chart of at least one or two of the people, and there is a calling. And again, where is the solution? The solution is the moon. Okay, it's not about protective magic and touching the willing consent of your partner. Even though when your partner is cheating on you and you are monogamous, then they're interfering with your willing consent. It's not like, oh my God, they are raping you, but it's not what you agreed on. It affects your sexuality. So it is connected to your sexual health. So even when people are monogamous, it's a sort of relational style, and when somebody is suddenly not being monogamous, then it is interference with the sexual well-being as well of the other, psychological and sexual well-being. And so not every time there's like ability to program this, and with Uranus it can be the it just happened. But usually the it just happened is from the committed partner. And usually there's a power issue because they are feeling powerless to the youth of someone that revivifies something wild in them, but in reality many times they are abusing the power, okay? And this is a situation that people really need to be aware. Like Uranus happens. You're all going to have a Uranus transit. And you might be going through like such phase 2, and the tendency to kind of like to bring in the togetherness by blaming it on the third party can backfire very, very big time. Because what the reason behind this was the Uranus transit. It has nothing to do with sex. It has nothing to do. Sex is just the sexual energy, okay? It has everything to do with meaning and purpose and a creative endeavor that needs to be. Okay, there's something that the person needs to liberate, and in Uranus transit, they're going to draw it in. Unfortunately, in many cases outside of the existing relationship, not because of the partner, because of where they are in their lives. And sometimes relationships break upon this, not always. Okay, it really depends. If the new you is someone you can be with your partner, then people can mend that. And Andromeda constellation is actually very associated with mending also these things. This is why I say, as long as Uranus is not sexual boundary violation in the sense of, sexual violence, then teachings like Esther Perel can help remediate an understanding that for both people, yes, there was sexual arousal, but it was not about the sex or even the connection, in as much as it was as a result of this collision, in a chaotic way, you begin to paint again, you begin to write again, you begin to record again, you begin to do astrology, okay? My Uranus square was unfortunately sexual boundary violation. That was not, yes, still recovering from. But the thing is that some woman who knew the other person, she was like, yes, they have the sun on your moon and this and that, and showing me to astro.com. And I was like, I didn't know sun, moon. I was like, what do I do so not to get into this situation again? This is how I began to learn composites. And I didn't know how to do a natal chart. And I developed my outer planets to inner planets approach. In the beginning, reading Liz Green and all of these things. But later really seeing how beyond Liz Green, okay, beyond the psychological approach, when we delve more into the meaning of the outer planets and we understand that those are things that they take time, and when they have an imprint on your connection, you can expect them to play out, okay? And so it would only be a decade and a half later that I would look at my natal chart and I would see that I'll bring this to the table. And only this year I learned that I have the imprint of the moon, Neptune and Pluto, and dominancy of Scorpio, okay? So when I used to say I'm an outer planet girl, I was not lying. But this is an extreme case, okay? You might not be this extreme case, yes? But definitely you might run into astrology. Sometimes you have this weird relation, and if Uranus plays a part, or even Neptune, maybe you run into astrology and you find answers in astrology. It's not about the relationships even, but maybe you're destined to become astrologer. Okay, or more for some people, maybe it's psychology. Okay, I began to look more into psychology when I read Liz Green. And I was like, oh, the savior complex. She knew about this way before anybody was talking about, in the Pluto Capricorn age, way before anybody was talking about narcissism, the savior, victor, victim, savior, victim, victimizer, triad, and so on and so forth. Okay, she brought these things to the table. And then I went and read about the psychology. So there was a lot of things I didn't get to in my life, okay, when there were the outer planets transits. And yeah, me being a Me Too veteran, oh my God, I understand. The more I learn into this and into the charts, I understand how it plays a part also in the situation that we are having globally today, and so on and so forth, yes? But there are many things where it's like, if it's not in your book, don't put it there. And being aware can help you understand. Or when you hear somebody say, oh, I need to care for another, they saved my life, when I'm with you I don't feel the need to drink, smoke, whatever, you know that this is a Neptune theme playing out. That does not mean anything good about your connection. Okay, it means that they have replaced that now you are their addiction, or they are your addiction. Not good. Okay? It was also when I learned about this, I learned that the skills that I have of now aromatherapy or healing skills, for me, not necessarily to make money out of this, are important and are not something that, oh, if I find love, then I won't need that because I'll be happy, and so on and so forth, okay? And this is also where Uranus comes into play. One of the biggest kind of like arguments or kind of like things I remember since 2007 for my Uranus square was where I had a dynamic with a creative person, and they say, oh, when I am happy, I have a relationship and I am happy, then I don't do like this creation, I don't write music, and so on and so forth. It's when I'm sad or in a crisis, then I write music, then the song comes. And I said, no, I want to create when I am happy. Okay, so for the creative endeavor to be a pillar in my life, um, and I had no idea in the passage of the years how correct it is. Now, when I think about Neptune, so how this dependency of where, like, if I don't have love, I'm a poet. If I have love, then I just live it. Then I don't think about it. It's like, oh, the pillar of creativity is a constant in the life that can actually allow for a healthy relationship to come in. Yes, of course, it depends on how do you channel this creativity and so on and so forth, because Neptune is about deep longings and stuff, but Neptune can also be like other worlds or imagination in general. It can also be scientific. It's not just art is science and science is art. So having this center in your life where, like, I'm creating when I'm happy, I'm creating when I'm unhappy. If you think about Beyonce, her career is so successful because she's singing when she's sad, she's singing when she's angry, she's singing when she's happy, she's singing when she's tired, she's singing when she's frustrated, she's singing when she's joyous, she's singing. Okay? It's a constant in her life, it's a commitment. And then you have both your creation and a relationship that accompanies your life. Okay? Not saying that Beyonce is just it's like a role model for ideal relationship, but I am saying how important it is not to go with Neptune to the patterns where I let a person replace something that is a part of me, which is the creative part. And so my creation is the person. Okay? It is also very important in such relations where, like, you have a power exchange relationship, okay, where you feel like the creator and the creation, and so the partner becomes like the creation of another. And I think it is a lot what's happened with they don't know what's energy with me, because they felt like they are creating a person, kind of like curious who will I grow to be and so on, but eventually I am a person, and they cannot hold their creative endeavors solely to people and to creating people, because that leaves them that disempowered in the face of their creation. As we approach Pluto in Aquarius, this actually becomes important, and I draw on Austin Kapok, who mentioned the Frankenstein myth, okay, both the erotic Frankenstein myth, but also the creator and the creation. Okay, so natal Aquarius in the 12th house, I can see how that played out, and how that can play out. And this is where you create something, and now it's a technology, okay? And now this thing has a life of itself. It can be a story, it can be a robot, it can be a power exchange relation, okay? Because you basically create something, you set boundaries, you take a person to the limits. It's a very intimate connection, and the ideation of blending there, and the creator and the creation, and the desire to be to see your power in the other person, and so on and so forth, those things can only be met up to a certain while. And if it comes to a point where a person loses their absolute mind and are hungry for control, then they basically, kind of lost it, the most PC way they lost it. And so the ideal became a fraction of reality, and a complete disillusionment, a disempower, and the relationship between people begins to be the relationship of an artist to its craft. And so the person in front of you becomes this, paper that you want to scrap and throw here and throw there. But it doesn't work like that. And in many ways, many people do that in their own relationship. None of us is exempt from having some measure of we've created something, or especially now when we manifest relationships, okay? We manifest something and then a person comes in and he feels that X as a partner for us. And now you think like, okay, I'm creating this, okay? The creator and the creation. And there is another person there. So you have to hold space for both the fact there's another person there and the fact that there is what you want from a relationship, what you manifest for your life. Okay, with the respect that this person can meet only so much and for only so long, and so on and so forth. Okay, so it's holding these tensions that are also Aquarian, in the sense that Aquarian is a lot about manifesting, claircognizance, the technology, and creating something. If you think about the song Coin-Operated Boy, then that's kind of like an extreme of that. And there is a desire that this creation will fulfill our needs. Okay, the erotic robot, the Frankenstein stories, the power exchange relation. Okay, servitude, but also where one person is like, to draw on an exact analogy, one person is like the canvas of another person. Those things can all play out, and they can be very joy, a source of joy. But with the hard aspects, the power oscillations are going to manifest in a way that is that people genuinely feel disempowered and abuse their power, therefore. And the Neptune one is going to be where you have this ideation, but just like a person who wrote a skit or wrote a song or wrote something, and then they wake up the next day and they're like, oh my God, this was terrible, this was that. Now this is the scene that you created with the person in front of you, okay? And that can manifest, when this dynamic exists, it usually exists in some sort of a covert or hidden way for both people, okay? And when you go to therapy and it shows up, then you have to learn this all in your own, because there is no person to reflect you that. They are too busy acting out. Okay, and so it can kind of feel, and because Neptune is also like drugs and psychedelics or shamanic experience, but also pharmaceuticals, and healing, and the ideal of agape love, that is also from psychology. And Pluto is kind of like psychoanalysis, the depth of something, and so on. And so those places can really be taken to extreme and explored in extremes, where even awareness, okay, it's like you're aware you're dealing with a person who's right now in a situation where they're addicted. Now this person is your psychologist that you went to deal with your relational trauma and relational patterns, and you don't you need a therapist for the therapy, and you don't have anyone to sort this with, and so because you did not come, and so that can be difficult, but this can also be experienced for some people, because this is about psychology and psychiatry. If you think about, even Neptune is also about missing people. So on a mundane level, we had some people who were kidnapped and then were returned and hospitalized in mental hospitals and closed departments, where they're like, the freedom is not accessible to them, in the excuse of care, okay? So re-victimizing them and calling this rehabilitation or therapy or help or emergency help or whatnot. So this is on a mundane level, but more I bring this on a personal level, okay? How the relationships that you have at this time, or the relationships that you are thinking about, at this time. They can also be insights as to your relationship, okay? Neptune is about surrender. So when you surrender something, then suddenly you realize, okay, things that were playing out, and you can have detachment with the in conjunct Uranus. You can have like a eureka, okay, sudden detachment. It's like, oh, that was playing out. Oh, I can see how that was playing out for me too, okay? But fuck it, that was my, I don't know, this person that I finally dated after I told myself I'm not gonna date anyone, and they convinced me they're okay, or literally my therapist, okay, they don't know what's energy, um, or you're dating someone right now, okay, but you could be having these eurekas. It's important to remember that the awareness that someone is addicted does not resolve in itself the addiction. The awareness that someone is feeling disempowered does not in itself resolve their sense of disempowerment. And it's important to remember this, okay? You're saying, oh, okay, I know why they did that, okay? It's helping you to have this eureka, to release stuff, to just accept it, which is also important, okay? You just accept what was, what is, what that. And this is more the spirit of the time than an actual relationship right now. So, yes. And now I want to talk about a little bit about Aries. And so Aries, I can't tell you that I know exactly how she operates within the realm of relationships. Aries is basically the one that was not invited to the party and avenged this, causing an all destruction around her, okay? And this all destruction around her also unfortunately included people raping someone's person. It's like really weird stuff. And so we need to remember about Aries that she was excluded, okay, from everything. So she had no resource whatsoever, and is unlikely to have been validated for whatever boundaries violation that she has been going through, okay? And so Aries is that part in your chart where it's you, another person, if it plays out in relationships, both of you, there's a part in you that has been so excluded that you lost your humanity, okay? And you need to take this energy out of your body. Now, where is Aries correct? Okay, where is Aries correct? First of all, it cannot be that you don't have resources, whether it's housing, food, and so, or acceptance, and so on and so forth. And so you have to have the ability to make good choices before we can judge you for your choices. Okay, this is where Aries is correct. Aries is correct to cause a Trojan war where, you know, if she is in some sort of a situation where around the crooks, okay, if they're all crooks, so to speak, then to cause them chaos so that you will survive is something that, if you think about the Second World War, think a lot of the people that we are calling narcissists are people that's very informed in the time of the Second World War, or similar situations, which unfortunately persisted all through today. So a lot of the people we call narcissists were simply people that were in some impossible situations where they had to gaslight everyone and everything. Okay, Israel, for example, is a mandatory army state, and we have a comedian that had a joke about that was based on his real life, and that joke went: somebody left 1 hour earlier the shift at the army. Then they come to the commander, and the commander say, "I see you left at 4. The person said, I left at 5. And the commander says, look at the camera. The camera shows he left at 4. The person says, right head blank, looking blank in his eyes. Say, I don't know what the camera says. What the camera doesn't say. If it sounds a bit like Trump, you're right. I don't know what the camera says. I don't know what the camera doesn't say. I left at 5. Okay? And the person said, look, 4 a.m. The I don't know what the camera showed, but I left at 5. Until the commander is just understanding they have no one to talk to. And it's like, oh, okay, fine. They let go. Okay? And that is a type of reality where sometimes you just need your hour earlier. You know you have no one to turn to if you ask. So you just go and gaslight everyone because that's what they're doing, stupid things too. Why should you listen to them? And otherwise, you may have left an hour earlier because, I know people that lost courses, like to be commander, to be this, to be that, because they needed to go to a funeral of a person who died in the army, okay, at the war. Okay, this is a real story. It's a real story. Okay, and so when you are living in those realities of like a dogmatic system, archaic system, you become like a narcissist because you have to gaslight everyone. If you think about the World War, absolutely, you have to gaslight everyone. Okay, and so when these people later grow, and if they are in chronic situations like this is what they know. Now, you still need connection, you still need appreciation, you still need all these things, okay? But the patterns of which you know how to interpret the world are in this box still. Plus, the world is still in this way. Why I say if this reminds you of Trump, okay? Trump was probably born into such reality. He's a businessman. This is the world of business. So much so that when he buried his first wife, I think, he buried her in a certain, I think, parking lot, or I don't remember what, because of some taxation, something. If it is a graveyard, he makes it a graveyard and he doesn't pay taxes or something like this, because he was so used to the world being like this. And even when she was alive, she said on her divorce, she said, we were a very good friend. But when it came to business, to him, it is business, and you have to make your end of, and you don't think about the other at all, only about yourself. Okay, this is how we learn to do business. Not saying that this is right. This is absolutely, there's no economy without people. Eventually it backfires. But a lot of what we call narcissism is rooted in that. And Aries, she doesn't fool around. If she needs something, she's gonna get this something. Okay? Who has to go on the way? It doesn't matter. And when it relates to housing, when it relates to food, when it relates to her identity, okay, then this is kind of like her go-to. It's causing a chaos, a havoc, okay, and is very likely to have been marginalized. And so Aries is basically, you can think about the marginalized take revenge, but it's not even the marginalized take revenge. For example, one of the things that hardly anybody tells is that Adolf Hitler is not only a painter, okay, but also he was homeless because he couldn't work. If you read Mein Kampf, actually in his words, he said, I could not be an officer. Okay, his father was an officer. He said, I respected my father, but I loved my mother. Okay, he could paint. He painted nice pictures, okay? But he could not do a jobby job, and so he found himself homeless. The other thing, the one thing that he was good at, he had like courageous for war and stuff like this, okay? And so when a person is homeless, they are being recruited to organized crime, to cults, to all kinds of secret societies, to everything, you know. You sit at the shelter, you see the types that come around all the time to try to talk to you, to try to recruit you to here, to recruit you to there. Two ladies that told me in Netherlands, I am a nurse, and they had no shift, so they were homeless, and no shift during the COVID. Okay, no shifts during COVID, they had no shifts. They weren't working as nurses, they were homeless with us. You expect me to believe this? Either it's no COVID or they're not nurses, or both. Okay? And one of them was telling to another person, this is rat, he is rat, you are a rat. Okay? And so you see that when in those situations, people try to recruit you to all kinds of stuff. And so eventually, young Hitler, he liked the cult. The eugenics is not new. France to the French, Palestine to the Palestinians, Israel to the Israelis, Italy to the Italians, okay? This is not new. It wasn't anything that he invented. He was affected by Churchill, by this, by that, okay? What was he to do? Be homeless, and then he learned how to act. Suddenly where did he get acting classes from? He was homeless and he couldn't do a jobby job. He couldn't be an officer. He could fight in the army. He wanted to fight. That was something that he knew how to do. Okay. But then to work, to be officer, he couldn't. He could paint. And then he learned, where did he get acting lessons from? Okay. It's those secret societies. One of them, he was recruited, and then he got to learn, he got to this, he got to that, or whether he's in jail, or whether he's in hospital, or whether he's homeless. And so people recruit people and put him in his position of where he was, and when they wanted to get rid of him, they got rid of him. So everybody's hating Hitler. Churchill was not necessarily different than Hitler. The same ideas, eugenics, realpolitik. When we get to Aries, you see, it's also impossible to speak Aries without speaking politics. If Pluto, we can talk about power, Me Too a little bit. Neptune, maybe addiction and connection. Uranus is kind of like, oh, there's something you need to do, maybe a revolution. Aries, you cannot without politics. She's 100 years, it's a century. You cannot talk about Aries without talking about the ideologies of the last century. Because that's when she's been in Aries, although Hitler had his Aries in Pisces still, okay? Dreaming about the motherland and so on and so forth. And Aries is basically how a person that just doesn't fit to the social structure that everybody finds their place in, or they're marginalized in society, is exposed to the corruptions of society and wants to do something about it. This was the story of Hitler. He just believed that the Jews, if he got rid of the Jews, then he got rid of corruption. It's a very naive belief, okay? There is no particular, Voltaire in his last days, in his later days, he said, I was naive, I was fooled, because I understand later that I was mistaken. Jews are not any better or worse than any other religion, okay, Muslims or Christians. It's a very relevant thing to remember now when we are going to Pluto Aquarius. Hitler was naive. He thought, okay, there is a marker. All the evil in the world is Jews. If I take Jews down, then we change the banking, we change the academia, we change everything, only to find out that it's not really so. And People can be foolish regardless of their religion. And Hitler, we were joking about Hitler that he was looking Jewish and maybe he was Jewish. No, he was German. It's actually that the image of Irish people, it was kidnapped people from the Nordic countries and Poland, and that gave us the image of the blonde with the blue eyes. That is not even the image of a German person, and so Hitler is actually German, naturally looking German. Okay, we thought he was looking Jew, but no, it's just how Germans look like when they don't kidnap children. So for eugenics purposes, okay, so however we demote one single person is actually the face of society at the time. It was the face of society at the time. Everybody was racist. Everybody believed in some sort of eugenics, that by purifying the race, by marrying within the family, then you purify the race, or so, like weird stuff. Okay? Aries is tending to that. So where does it meet your interpersonal relationships? Maybe the beliefs you have around your partner. Okay? They represent something that goes against the grain for you. With Uranus, it's almost there. Aries, right there. They represent something that goes against the grain for you. And if you think about could there be a situation where you say, oh my God, you don't believe I dated Hitler. Okay, that can be an Aries situation. So when you think, oh, my ex was crazy, my ex was a narcissist, my ex was this, my ex was that. Okay, and she's in Mars sign. So it touches, and she's heading Venus. She's heading to Taurus. So you want to think about where have you and or your partner have been of the marginalized. This is where you have your little CPTSD. And so they can't see things your way, or they just are not provided with the ability to make the decisions that you would expect a person to make. But also they can cause some chaos, they can cause some drama, they can, or you can cause some chaos, some drama. This can be traumatic as well. And you must understand, Aries is in Mars sign. All relationships involve Mars. It's just so. So, and now when we actually have Venus trine in Aries, we have more of an access to understanding, to realistically appraise that she's right now in the sign that rules the penis, that rules sex, that rules passion and drive, that rules war. Okay, and so she is in a situation where she's been so excluded that she doesn't have access to thinking right. And the answer to that is to be inclusive. The answer to that is to accept people's identities. The answer to that is to tend to the places where we have been ableistic. Okay, the answer to that is first of all biodiversity. If eugenics has been the last century, the antidote is biodiversity. The answer to that is to make sure Aries has land, Aries has a house, Aries is seen or is accepted into society. And it's not about accepting the behavior, it's about making sure that those who are marginalized in our societies do get to be a free person as long as they respect the other person's autonomy. Yes? And it is understanding that if a person can paint, can fight, but cannot be an officer, either we will find a place where we can integrate and include this person, or they will find themselves in a place where the only place where they feel accepted and belonging is within certain groups that give them a sense of a validation or belonging and skills and training, but don't have the best interest of humanity in mind. Okay? And this is where we also have to think about our partnerships. So Mars is real estate. Mars is real estate. It's the business, yes, but it's also real estate. Okay? If your partner doesn't have a separate house and a separate estate that they can move into, that they are safe in, that they can express themselves in, if you decide that you want time out, okay, if they're afraid they find themselves in the street, unfortunately, you are dealing with someone who has the potential of being Hitler now. What will they do? Be in the street? What is the street looking like? Okay? And this is a part of a lot of domestic violence. It's not the whole story of domestic violence. It's not the whole story of this. Yes, it's not the whole story. When you say to someone, go seek therapy, go seek help, okay? Sometimes there isn't any help. When after Me Too, I said, I will go to therapy, okay? And then those things happened with the therapist, who in himself was confessing to me that my vulnerability makes him, takes the vicious sides out of him, okay? And brings the vicious sides out of him. And I said, well, it's a relationship you cannot have without vulnerability, okay? If I cannot be vulnerable with you. But I also understood that there is no frame of help for a person in this situation. And you cannot tell to a supervisor, well, I'm sleeping with my patient in the astral field, okay? But when he was saying they don't know what's energy, he was threatening me. But I came from treating sexual boundary violation in childhood. And so those things are involving secrecy, and secrecy was one of the things that I could not have around a connection, okay? Those type of segments in every relationship, and you're going to have different measures of it in different relationships. Those are Aries type. Now with Rahu and the eclipses we had with Rahu, Aries, a lot of people see that. And it can be an argument you have with your partner, okay? You could be, I don't know, two Australian people watching the Israel-Palestine, and one of you, even the woman, could be saying, well, in every war there is rape. Why are they so excited about this in this case, okay? While the other person could be like, are you crazy? We should abolish rape all across the board. Rape is not liberation, okay? And it can be that very, and if you look into the depth of this argument, every person is coming from a completely different place, and at least one of these places is like completely marginalized, okay? If you ask a person like me, we should abolish rape all across the board. Yes, but I don't come from a nationalistic place. I'm third generation to Holocaust survivor, who also in Israel encountered people that told him, oh, it's too bad Hitler didn't finish the work. Okay? I think, I don't know if it, yeah, in the beginning of the war, we had this, some satire, somebody published a satire of how we are Israelis, like, oh, come to Shabbat, come to this, come to that. Oh, there is a crisis now. Oh my God, we should all unite. And then this crisis is over by, people thought it's going to be quick by Thursday. You say, oh, too bad Hitler didn't finish the job. Okay? So it was not just told to my grandfather. It's something that Israelis say to each other. And so when you think about Holocaust survivors, they're also from Morocco, from Libya, from Algeria, it was everywhere. I would not be surprised if Palestinians are also, many of them are Holocaust survivors, absolutely, because they came all the way to Palestine, so, which was Palestine, Israel, Palestina. So it was like Hitler was not going to leave them alive, right? It got to this. And so when you think about those places, so I don't come from a nationalistic place. So to me, it's like the promised land is the land that keeps the promise. Yes? But for another person, they could be coming from a very nationalistic place. Emotional connection to the motherland, their ancestry, the this, the that, but the Holocaust, there are Holocaust survivors starving in Israel today. What are you talking about with me? There are Holocaust survivors that had to go to Germany, to the place where they were kidnapped from, because then they could eat there. Okay? So I have this point of view. Another person, also descendant of Holocaust survivors, could have a completely different point of view. We must preserve the memories, the stories. My grandfather talked about this only once. I heard about this from my mother when I was 20-something years old. Some German person recorded Bella Ciao, said, Mama, listen to this song. And then my Bulgarian friend said, oh my God, this partisan song, they raped people in Bulgaria. I didn't know this. For me, they saved my grandfather. And I was like, oh my God, listen to this partisan song in German. Okay, and she told me about my grandfather. I was like, oh, wasn't he after the First World War? She said, no. There was a gate, and then there was a rebellion, and then the gate was open, and they went out. This is the Warsaw Ghetto rebellion. That's how I found out. So Aries is very much those Wikipedia games that end up with sex and Hitler. It's very much that one. Every person meets this story in a completely different way. It has to do, in our century, with marginalization. It's usually based on some sort of eugenics, or people call it racism. I think eugenics is more accentuating this because, yeah, it's about bloodline segregation. It's understanding that the Muslim Brotherhood and all their separate ISIS states are apartheid to every secular person. I'm not even talking about LGBTQ women. Every secular person, okay, is apartheid. These people take over. This is apartheid for the whole world. And so every person will have their own perspective. Aries is where you have been marginalized because of a part of your identity, or because of something that you are able or not able to do. Okay? Sometimes it's because something you are able to do. Okay? I had a friend that she was having a publicity office in Switzerland, And she was rising and rising, began to work with Facebook, began to this, began to that. And then they tried to hospitalize her, to make of her crazy, to ruin her marriage, and everything fell apart like a tower of cards. Now she works at the pizza, so her blind spot is that everybody can work. And she's against psychiatry, but she forgets that for organized crimes and drug trafficking and human trafficking, the most famous business that you can do money laundering with is a pizza place. Okay? And so she doesn't see that. There's no talking to her. There's no talking to her. Okay? It's those collisions that are that somebody is excluded in such a way that they need to cause havoc, okay, to cause drama, to go to the party, to be included at the party, because otherwise they're left with nothing, and that the boundaries are all violated. It's that type. And unfortunately, with the Rahu Aries, this is in everybody's chart. It's in everybody's chart. Now Venus is trining Aries. So having hard aspects to Aries with your Venus or with your relationship planets, okay, it means that somebody is afraid to lose everything and have their rights violated, and they would do everything, including an A-bomb, to sustain it. And it's not because they are an evil person in nature. Okay? It's because it is survival thing for them. Okay, the people who are, supporting Palestinian 7th of October, they had not the autonomy to see that the action of rape and torture is not a good strategy when you want to reach autonomy. Okay, because what is autonomy? There is the I am. I assert the I am by any means necessary, but rape and torture is not the means necessary. It actually backfires, because now you have decentralized people, and those who survived, there's not even an entity there, and there's violence, since all they have is violence, take out. Okay, you could argue Palestinians who did this are in those situations, yeah, but eventually. Yes, you can. We have to. Somebody has to make these things stop, because then, it's not leading anywhere. Okay, and there are enough forces that have been so marginalized that for them. They are considered lazy, they are considered unworthy, or they are considered satanic because they do something that is not even hurting anybody, but they are considered more outcast than any pedophile over nothing. And you must understand, the people who are actually behind the funding of things, they see things as resources, okay? They don't see things as nationalities. They don't see things as eugenics, because they use drugs that have plasma, okay? Drugs like pharmaceuticals that have plasma that's driven from the blood of people who need this $20, and they usually have even drug issues. So the blood goes through processing. It's your everyday homeless person. Okay, so, and they get this to their blood, so they don't mind, they don't talk about purification of the race. They know where the drugs are coming from, okay? So they're not racist, and they are not nationalistic in particular. Yes, they don't think about the nationality. They think to live good. And they don't have a particular opinion about any sexual orientations. A lot of them are having sex with children. And if they don't, it's because that they don't want to be extorted. But usually it's not possible because to be in the place where they are, they had to go there by agreeing to do crimes. And so to go higher up the rank, higher up the rank, higher up the rank with every crime that they did. This is how we see people committing crimes. We think, why? Why? Okay? Unfortunately, there's things. And sometimes they are recruited at the point where they are helpless, where they don't have, okay, even if they are born to all the money, if they say goodbye, they are in the street. No job, no place will take them, no this, okay? So you think a person is born into all the money, then they are wealthy, then they are this, they are that. All of the things, all of the lifestyle, all of the that, when they are excluded from the family, okay, this is their story. They have nothing. So they will look for markers. If the family is Jewish, then they will say the Jews. If the family is Christian, the Christian. If the family is Muslim, the Muslim. If somebody in the family was gay, it's gay. Somebody in the family was in the church, then anti-religion. Okay? And those create even advances in humanity because now we separate religion from the state. We separate, or we give a country to the Jews. Jews never had like land since biblical times, and so they were constantly persecuted. So, poof, a land is given to the Jews. Like enough persecution, and we give a land to Palestinians, which some would argue never even had like their own land, as definitely lived in places, but it's not like they had their own land. It's like, oh, maybe they had consistency on this land. Maybe, we don't know. Or maybe yes, we don't know. Okay? All is filtered through stories. Aries aspect, they affect, if Pluto is the personal, is the political, and Neptune is the eternal, is not, is more like the Goethe saying of, love is not made by looking at each other, but by working together towards, let's say, the horizon. Okay? And Uranus is what how you came to change even the society around you by being yourself, radical acceptance, and so on. Healing, sudden healing, eurekas, discovering astrology, discovering science, and stuff like that. Aries is where does the topic of eugenics, of marginalizations, of war is ridiculous, of people losing their humanity, and so on and so forth. Where is it in your bloodline? Because Mars is also bloodline. How is this affecting you? How does this affect your identity? What part of your individual identities were so marginalized that it kind of like it had no excuse in everyday society? Okay? And it could be something about ableism. Some people are men, they cannot provide for someone because they don't have the ability to work and make a living. Okay? So, what does it mean? And also it's about what you cannot accept in a way when it comes to identity. Your identity and so on and so forth. Yes, if you're a survivor of, let's say, of sexual violence, you cannot now live with someone who has this in their past and they are not in a situation where they trust themselves. You cannot accompany them through this process. You're lethal to each other. And this is also where a lot of the Pluto square areas, you think about the narcissism and stuff like that, then this is where people learn that unconditional love is not about tolerating every behavior, but we also must learn that it is impossible to have healthy relationships if we don't have acceptance to all identities, and if we don't have, as she heads to Taurus, it's going to be about land, and not land for the peoples, but Aries is the individual, so land for women, okay? Because if a woman has land and a man has land, now they have some sort of basis that allows them to take better decisions. But if it's dependent on your ability, ableism, okay, to be active, to work, to have land, to have housing, to have food, to have freedom, then it's impossible to make good relationships. Because a breakup would mean you lose everything. Somebody loses everything. Okay? It can also mean, so real estate is big with Mars. Identity is big with Mars. And, you know, soil, if you think about a sexual energy, then having root, having fertile soil, balances the sexual energy and then allows you to make correct choices. Yes? Those things are very important. If women don't have this, we've seen what happened to men. They were emasculating men for centuries. And they had to poison Mars, their husbands, because they were abused. This is true. It's just the truth. It's either a woman was murdered or she would murder. This was the relationship between men and women for like centuries. Not meant for this. There's no reason we should be like that. But because there's something is such a blind spot to people that they like, how come a person is just like a parasite, what they are going to live and they're not going to do anything, and no, they're going to burn your whole village and torture and rape everybody. What do you prefer? They're not like this because they don't want to. Everybody wants to have a good life. Everybody wants to do something with their lives. Everybody wants to be happy. Everybody wants to be connected. If they're not in this situation, is meaning that there's something interfering with that, and maybe they came to do something that you don't accept. You think, oh, painting is lovely. Yes, but if God forbid, so your son is a painter. Oh my God, what will he do for a living? Why can't painters do painting for a living? Or they want them to do a Holocaust and write Arbeit macht frei on the working camp. Okay? But the whole life is a struggle. Now they make everybody, the entire humanity, feel like this. It's not good for either of us. Yes, I can see the moon and the ascendant in this situation. And so other things that it can be, you think about the collision between the involuntarily celibate, okay, and willing consent, okay. If I don't trust you, then I cannot have sex. Maybe if you would come to me in a situation where I could trust you, then I would feel erotically attracted to you. But if I cannot trust you, I cannot feel erotic attraction to you, then you don't feel like you're involuntarily celibate, and I feel too afraid to even wonder if I'm voluntarily or involuntarily celibate. I was like, just leave me alone. Okay, or the other way around. Okay, if you feel suffocated in connections and so on and so forth, then you're like, I don't want to commit. I don't want to commit. I don't want a relationship. I don't want a relationship. Many people, they do want a life partner or this or that. They just want to be free as well. I feel like this is coming. Okay, their autonomy, Aries, is in polarity with connection, Libra. Although Libra is an air sign. So giving time, giving space, and so on. So, this is the spirit of the time. Those are the issues that can arise with the outer planets. And it's important to understand that when those issues arise, outer planets are intergenerational aspects meeting the personal. You know the psychology question, where does it meet you? Okay, so we're having a world war. Where does it meet you and your partner? Where does it meet you? You can see that in the chart when you look at the outer planets to inner planets, what is your natal chart, synastry and composite. You can see that house and the addressing of that will always be addressing something grander than yourself, not in a sacrificial way, but just understanding. Okay, oh, me and my partner, we fight all the time. Oh, because we don't have our separate autonomies. Oh, because and you need to look now. Venus is in Sagittarius. It's about freedom, feeling free with each other, being free with each other, having autonomy, and so on. But this is also about when Venus is in, let's say, Capricorn, okay? And it can be about your stocks, how you are registered, outdated rules. And you see that you tend to that, and oh, suddenly you can have more communication, suddenly you can have more freedom. Okay, Aries, we talked about the narcissism. Okay, so on the one hand, you don't want to be in a situation where you are with a person who is gaslighting you all the time, because there's no intimacy there. There cannot be intimacy when it's all gaslighting. But also a little bit of a detachment of like, first of all, it's not you. And secondly, they were growing into a certain situation. You understand the situation, the fact that we are in such a situation right now. Then, yes, right now you're having this letdown because Venus longs for the eternal with someone when she squares Neptune. But just addressing that is touching on that eternal. It just happens in a different way. Okay, you understand that the disillusionment is a feature of the spirit of the times, but also that the times are changing. So there is an eternity that you touch. Okay, just in a way that is a roundabout, it's in a different way. And this can be also about things that are, mind you, I will just touching. Yes, thank you. The moon has left the 22nd degree. And ascendant left the 11th degree. Okay, it's lunar hour even. Saturn here on the descendant, so reality check to a lot of our ideals. Okay, Neptune is also an ideal, a dream. And Saturn is about this reality check that sometimes causes separation, but can sometimes cause commitment. Because sometimes we say, I'm dealing with the person in front of me, not with the myth of the person, or with the myth of relationship, but with what's actually there. Then you may find a place where you can commit. But but now it's too soon to say, because Venus is squaring Neptune in an existing relationship. Okay, so in an existing relationship, I saw a title of Victor Astro about this aspect of Venus square Neptune. He says, love is disappointing. So this, right now, this is how you feel. Okay, love is disappointing. And again, if you have been more than like a Venus-Neptune synoic cycle with each other, then you're just encountering the same longings and disappointments. You want to be watching them closely because it's actually a Uranus transit that can poof. It just happened. If you think that it just happened is something that narcissistic people say, look, I brought in this Aries again. Wait until you have a Uranus transit, okay? Even when I talk about, I say, yes, I'm into veteran, or they don't know what's energy, as my psychologist said. I talk about this. I'm not talking about shaming them or degrading them. Or yes, of course, I'm angry about it. They don't know what's energy. Um, but I also have this appraisal that I'm like way too scientifically like taking coping mechanism, whatever. Aquarius 12th house. So with Saturn in the ninth. So of course this is what I will do with this. But I also look at this as those are people that are older than me, and I whatever transit they had, I will also have these transits. Okay. So learning from a pilot cannot allow themselves to learn only from their experience because they will not live to that. So learn from them, from them doing these things because they were trying to fly. They were trying to go somewhere. They were trying to do something with their life. They were trying to have relationship and so on and so forth. To have, I don't know, a fantasy. I don't know. Okay. But understanding that whatever it is that they were going through, okay, I will also have such transits. And so tending to it now to basically whatever point of interference I have to improve upon my life, I use it, okay? This is what it means, whichever way. And I'm sharing this information with you because this is important to run into this information right now. And might be that this video is kind of like your letdown. This is where love is disappointing for you. Oh, I thought that me and this person could be, could have, could this, could that. Yes, we are in a world war, but you know what is also disappointing? There are also things that are completely different. On a mundane level, let's talk mundane a little bit. And so, you see, there are people in the world that are planning on a democide. And just today, my parent was here and we were talking. I told her, Mama, people are planning on a democide. They want to dilute, but it's just like we are saying with Hamas, or that when people are saying with Al Qaeda, it's like you kill one person. My mama always used to say, you kill one person, then 7 are born. It's like a spider, okay? What do we have right now? We had it in the COVID, and what do we have right now? A baby boom. So we are not depopulating. We're actually rejuvenating. It's not depopulation because people have a baby boom. People fall in love during crisis more. People have babies during crisis. If you think about this, people who still have like their menstruation, then in the crisis they fall in love more and they get pregnant more, and you have less planned parenthood, so you make babies. And I talked about the children. What will the children will be born with now? Okay, Uranus in either Taurus or Gemini, Saturn very likely still in Pisces or a little bit in the Aries, Neptune in Pisces or already in Aries. Okay, he talked about the child who has Saturn in Pisces. Aliyah had Saturn in Pisces. Bjork has Saturn in Pisces. These are not people we can control too much. Yes, they're not. They're going to live on. The legacy will live on even. because Saturn is death and Pisces the eternal. Okay, so if that's related to the mid-heaven or something that they do, then they will live beyond their life. The memory is called beyond their life, become a myth. Aliyah became a myth. Okay, people were investigating to her death and to not only her relationship with R. Kelly that was abusive, but also other things and other people that were involved in the industry way after her death. Like even Saturn returned to her death. They were looking into this. Um, yes, Saturn. Yes. Neptune, Pisces, so dreamers, Saturn, Neptune, Pisces, they can dedicate themselves. But if you think Hitler had, I think, Jupiter and Moon engulfing Aries in Pisces, okay? He couldn't be an officer. What he could do, he could fight for the motherland. He was angry and was courageous in fight, and he could paint. And he painted nature, like stuff, not the trendy stuff. That's why he didn't get into the academia, okay? And he hated Jews. But he was dedicating himself to completely like something remote from reality, and then unfortunately he made this thing a dystopia for the world. But yes, I'm not saying that God forbid there are born Hitlers, but that Saturn, Pisces, Saturn is dedication, and Pisces is something that's remote from reality. You can dedicate yourself, but something is completely useless. It is true. So these children are not exactly children you can put in a concentration camp. Why? Because they will constantly rebel, and when Uranus goes to Gemini, it's rebellious children. You try to tell them one thing, they do completely the other, and this is exactly what you need for this time. For 2030, oh my God, this is exactly what you need. You need people. You tell them to do one thing, they do another. And children. Why? Because the problem right now is all these child soldiers. I saw Houthis, children, Yemeni children, okay, with guns, recruited as child soldiers. So many of the Palestinian people that Israel has in jail in Israel are children because they are recruited to war. Okay, so a child bombards somebody with a soldier with stones, and the soldier, they only have a gun. Okay, then and unfortunately the army, the IDF killed children too. Okay, it's not just like, oh, there are a couple of psychos and not all of them are like this. No, not at all. Psychos exist regardless of nationality, and good people exist regardless of what uniforms they are wearing. Also, even if you say Israel is like Nazi, even in Nazi army, there were people that were, allowing Jews to go in and out to transfer food or disobeying illegal orders and risking their lives thereby, So even if you would accept these notions, then yes. But the thing is that Uranus, especially Uranus Gemini, okay? Uranus is children, so these are going to be rebellious children. You can't get a hold of them. And Uranus Taurus, rebellious women. Ooh, this is a woman, you tell her one thing, she does another. It's a woman you can't get along with. And I have this in my third house. I had a client wanting to have a reading with me. Astrocartography, like stuff that, like, oh, come on, please, I'm waiting, and so on and so forth. I tried and said, she said, will you just be able to do this week because I need to plan it? I was like, please, then it's okay. We will need to cancel because I'm not appointable, and I don't know when will I be appointable. And so Uranus created spirit of matter, and there were part where I was interviewing people and so on, and then I became unappointable. Suddenly unappointable. If I don't know, if the Pope wanted to set a meeting with me where I do spirit of matter for his chart and try to guess it, like the podcast, I could not guarantee that I could meet him. I don't know. So I definitely go through revival. It's some sort of liberation of some sort. Yes, that puts me on a certain track. But the thing, Uranus Venus is basically a woman that you cannot expect what she will do. Women unexpected, but also mundanely, think like Ukraine, Belgium, Israel. Israel, you cannot expect anything. You don't know what Israel will do. She can do an A-bomb, she can do it this. She goes into Gaza, poof, the entire Gaza, everybody, and the tunnels there are under Israel as well. It's not just Gaza. You don't know what they will do. It's unexpected. Suddenly women couldn't get on a bus. You don't know if women will blow up buses in Israel because they cannot get on a bus. Before the war, suddenly revolutions in Israel and stuff like that. But Uranus Taurus on a people level is usually women. You don't know a woman thinks one thing, then she thinks another, then she talks to her vagina, then she talks to her earlobe, then she comes from her toenail. You don't know what this woman will do. What will she want? It's very good. It's very good. It's a woman that can't do what you say. So if you try to oppress her, she's doing the opposite. If you say, my darling, you are at life first, I know, what can I do? What can I do? But this is so. Then Uranus goes to Gemini. When Uranus was in Aries, it was about innovation, starting something new, breaking through, okay? And also meant that you could not expect what would they do. What would they do? Where will they go next? But yes, mainly this entrepreneurship, the booming of entrepreneurship. Everybody wants entrepreneurship, financial freedom. It was also Uranus Venus, but absolutely people you wouldn't know where they're going. Because Mars is like the tellus of something, and Uranus Aries, that was the Me Too. Suddenly they believe women. How do they do this? They talk. So weird. Yes, but I don't know how many women got a hold of the Me Too. I think there are a lot of women we don't hear about. Not in the sense that they were invalidated or something like this, but for me it was around science, innovation, many things. And I think for a lot of other people too, and it's like, we will hear about these innovators. Something will happen with them. And then Neptune Pisces, of course. Neptune Pisces is like the current. And I draw on again Austin Kopok when he talked about the Pisces archetype. And he talked about the current. He said you can immerse with someone or with something, and then you're in another place, and it's like you're committed, you're not committed, you this, you that, you're here, you're there. This is Pisces. And I was like, oh my God. I haven't said that Pisces. Like, he's so correct. This is so true. You can be completely into someone, and then the other day you're like, when I was quite young, I had a person who was dating a Pisces, and my greatest fear was like that I will wake up in the morning next to him and say, what am I doing in here? This was my greatest fear. It's like I cannot commit to him because I will wake up one day and I will think, what am I doing here? I will need to go. And I wouldn't be able to express myself. So, yes, Neptune it's exactly that, going with the current, okay? It's like you're a fish in the water. And so, people like this, they leak. I have this next to my midheaven. I surrender my public image because I cannot know what people will think about me. In the Me Too era, I was laughing about myself because I said, all the time I have this doubt, this, that. Now, the thing is with the trauma, it causes you dissociation. And I'm in such a satirical situation because I need everybody to believe me, but I don't remember detail to detail what happened. I know that something happened, and I remember one time, I remember this, the next day I don't remember exactly, something else, but the next day something else bothers me. So it's such a satirical situation to be in, and so tragic. Um, but with Neptune is Neptune Pisces. Yes, that's prominent in some person's chart. You don't know where they will go. They are here, then they are there. They're into this, then they're into that. And also Neptune is slippery. These people, you try to put them in a structure, they slip, they hack, they leak. And it's still going to be sextile Neptune. It brought some optimism to me, because you try to put these people in some sort of, I don't know, concentration camp or something like that. They're going to leak from everywhere. They're going to be like fishes. You try to catch them, they're here, they're there, you don't know where they are. And there's something like a woo way to Pisces. It's like you try to confront them and they're like a fish going outside of the hook. and creating, they just go around the current and that's it. You think they're going to touch on that point and then they go around it. Okay, so these people are definitely not going to be easy to tame. Can you tame the ocean? And then they're going to have Pluto in Aquarius. Some children still Pluto in Capricorn, some in Aquarius. Yes. So these are going to be children that keep it secret to themselves, that they read everybody's thoughts. And keep it secret to themselves that they know all that they know about the world. Until they reveal it. Because there's a threshold with Pluto. I have Mercury opposite Pluto. And I tried to keep a secret story that was not a diary. And then my parent found out about this and she thought it was a diary. But this was a very big crisis, yes, of course. But the thing was, later she would be a writer and she would tell me, what you don't want written on the newspaper, don't write. And we both people of the world, these transits where we're like, I don't express this, and then I cross the threshold and I'm like, I speak. And then you cannot be stopped. Okay, so this was the person that was violating my boundaries in academia. He was the lucky person to be the point of the threshold where I begin to speak. So that's the humor of the situation. And I wasn't able to speak about my trauma. I went to EMDR because I read some place where men that were sexually harassed or violated, then they went to EMDR because they didn't have to speak. All the talk therapists, they want you to speak about it. You're like, what can I don't even know. And then sometimes you cannot bring words to this. And then after EMDR, suddenly I began to speak. And then the previous note, I don't know what's energy, he was looking at me like a ghost because I began to speak about things that are not in the science. So that was the situation. And then I crossed the threshold and I began to speak. So Pluto is, it will have a threshold. You hide, you purge everything. And so both the natives, the children, it's difficult to explain to them, but their surroundings. Let's talk about their surroundings for a second. Because if the people that, during Pluto and Aquarius, a lot of people, like the overall government or whatnot, they will think that they can control your every move and read your thoughts and read your this. Let me tell you this. Me and that they don't know what's energy, we would have like shared dreams, okay? I dream about my cell phone having flashing screen, kind of like an algol thingy. I'm like flashing screen. And he would dream in Hebrew, I would dream in English. And he didn't understand what is this sheep thing. Sheep, relationship. But he would dream about the self because he would see me in the beginning of the meeting. I would play with my cell phone until he's coming to make coffee or something like this. And I play with my cell phone. So this captured his eye. So he would dream about my cell phone and the flashing screen and like moving screen. And like disorganized attachment. And yes, exactly that. So like, disorganized attachment. In Hebrew, kashrut is, and kasher is to call. Okay, connection and to call is the same thing. So it's like a cell phone and a disorganized screen, like the disorganized attachment. So like this. So, but I didn't understand what is he dreaming about. This was such a weird dream. And I look at it and I saw the colors as not my colors when I dream, it's the colors of another one. So you can dream the same dreams, you can think the same thoughts, and you don't understand where they are coming from. Okay? So you can read everybody's thoughts, but you don't understand where they are coming from and to interpret that and how it means to them. This is a situation where you think you know the person, but you're like, sometimes I would have arguments in telepathy with people, and I'm like, you are arguing with an opinion that I don't have. Okay, this is what they call projection. You're busy arguing with an opinion. The person in academia, he had a problem because I learned like holistic medicine and so on and so forth. So here immediately thought like in black and white thinking. Like if I look at something as the holistic aspect of medicine, then I must be one of these people that like you're arguing with me about something that I don't believe. Trying to show me something like I know this. Okay? Fine, خلاص. Okay? But this is the way Pluto in Uranus can play out for many people. And I give the example of Amka, the robot, the air robot. So they asked her if she cries. And she said, "Do you want water on your hardware?" Okay, because the experiences that we have when we read into thoughts, when we read the nervous system, we reconnect with the nervous systems, they're so unique that that it's really like how more intimate can you get than read somebody's thought and feel how somebody else's experiences orgasm. Okay, these are very interesting experiences, and still there is an existential gap that cannot be bridged between two people or peoples or whatnot. Okay, or robots and people. Okay, do you want water on your hardware? Okay, she can make all the expressions, she can think, she can say intelligent jokes, she passes the Turing test. Okay, I don't pass the Turing test. And so we expect her to do also this, and she's like, "Oh no, what do you want water on your hardware?" This is very much going to be the type of experience. And so for these children, people think that they got them under control, and then they cross the threshold and everything just purges out. Okay, so this can also be children, you think you got to know them and you don't, and it's not personal. Okay, it's not doing this against you, using this against you. It's just like you think you got to know them. You think, because Aquarius is knowledge, you think you got to know the little quirks and things of the person. You're like, no, you don't. Okay, and when we read each other's thoughts and we are exposed to this, is especially we can think we know each other, but it's like, oh no, you don't. And when I was younger, I had this experience, like I was dreaming the person, dreaming that this, sometimes they would feel like I know them mostly, and so I'm like, no, you don't know me at all. And then I would say all these things, why you say these intimate things about me? He said, I don't know you at all. I'm exposed to all these things non-volitionally. It's like my own being changes into you. And then I understand that it's you. Okay, a lot of such things, and the whole world is going to know it's energy. Okay, the whole world is going to know it's energy because weird things happen in those realms of frequency, astral projection, non-volitional, like all kind of like weird experiences. And so this is where those will be children that you cannot control, that you cannot know, that you can put a suggestion to their mind, and you can think that they follow this suggestion. But what they're going to do with your suggestion, you have no idea, and it's not what you intended them to do. Okay? A concrete place in my life after this is 12th house for me, after the Me Too, they tried to do the usual trick of suing me for like a violation of discipline rules in the academia, and I found myself in a mental hospital. I went to take coffee, and I said about the situation, I said, what are you waiting for, some person to kill themselves? They thought I meant me. And then they came to cops, and there was my friend was at his parents, so there was no one at the apartment, no one to sign for them that I'm not going to unalive myself. And so I said, you know what? Take me to hospital so they would see how wrong my situation is with all this crazy. So they did. And then I began to speak with patients. And by the stories of the patients, I begin to see that what they call a psychotic thingy. Hello, plane. It's going to Jordan. I just saw a plane cross into Jordan. I hope. No filter. This is what I saw. This is what I. Okay. There's a plane here going to Jordan. Maybe it's a flight, like it's like travelers or something. It doesn't look like a combat plane or anything. Maybe someone's flying to Jordan. Anyway. Greetings to Jordan. Anyway, I begin to speak with the patients, and I begin to see that their stories, like their so-called psychotic seizures, have a lot of patterns. And as I begin to speak with them, so one of them tell me, you're like a doctor, like you're telling me that none of these doctors talk to you like this? He said, no, I was just speaking to you with common sense. That voice told you to so and so and so on. This is a family member. Okay, tell them when I have money, I will do this, I will do that, or remove tattoo, or whatever. It's like, you're like a doctor. No, I'm a person who's actually listening to you, and not just immediately thinking that what you are saying is imagination. And there were nurses in there that saw that a lot of people, they have like energy frequency sensitivity, and they literally described it like that. The nurses, the psychiatric nurses themselves. And like they thought I'm going to be crooked up in some mental hospital. I come out. Oh, hysteria is from hysterium, which is actually about the womb. And let's do pleasure culture instead of rape culture. And oh, there's open dialogue from Finland. Oh, they said the same thing that I saw in hospitals. And oh, this like, I come out a new person with a social agenda. And it's like, that's the kind of children you're going to have, okay? You're going to do the usual trick where you think they're going to crook in some mental institution. And that's not exactly the way it turns about. Okay? And the thing is that it's because they have this sciencey, the curiosity. They have the curiosity. They're like, oh, I'm in a situation. Oh, there's a mental hospital. Okay. Oh, here are all the people that they say are crazy. But wait, there's so many patterns in their crazy. I saw a chemist that's breaking a Seroquel pill, even though she knew it would no longer be active because she was a chemist. And she got in the hospital, and I was like, she was telling me that. I was like, why were you doing that? Because I thought I'm the only person who doesn't like these beta blockers thingies. And she says, I don't know, I couldn't with the side effects. She's a chemist. And what the doctors will do, they will put her on the same drugs again that she won't be able with the side effects, because this is literally toxic. It literally kills you. And the body will do everything, including being violent, to take out these things out of the body. And usually in the background, either the person doesn't have housing, or they have relationship that doesn't respect them, or they went through some sort of grief and they had the clairs open up, or some more difficult like childhood stuff. Um, uh, but even with that, in Finland, those things are resolved because people have housing, and then they are believed, and then I'm not saying everything is perfect there, um, but you see that this was like psychosis. Okay, so you put such a person in a situation where, like, let's do the usual trick to either get rid of them or to discipline them, and they come out with a completely new scientific endeavor. They just make it a lesson or a science or a social movement or whatnot. Okay, and so these children are going to be born with these aspects. They will have this scientific prowess and powers since childhood. In the beginning, it will be hidden, and then they might feel disempowered, and then they might feel omnipotent as well. They will go to the omnipotence place. I can do everything by myself, including building a flying plane that flies to Venus and stuff like that. And yes, and Aries will still be in Aries. So they will stop at nothing to become autonomous. I'm not worried for these children. Okay, it is a relief, because there is this, like, we're in a world war. What is happening? What this? What that? It's getting worse by the day, and they're so controlling. It's like these children, they're like, they're not even, they're not. None of these folks have nothing on these children. I'm not worried for these children. These children are going to have a future. They're going to have a life. They're going to have their autonomy. They're going to have freedom. They're not going to be listening to anybody that's going to try to put them in 15-minute jails, all surveillance city. And if they will do things with this that people did not expect. Okay? Like the AI. So this is also a point of relief, especially if you are like pregnant, or if you have young children, or about to have young children, or if you think, it's apocalypse, everybody's going to die. The society is definitely changing, rejuvenating, yes, but these children are very fit to deal with the spirit of the times, okay? They will not do what... They will disobey. They will not even feel they are disobeying. They just are. And I like that about the outer planet settings. Of course, it's different with every chart, but I like that about the outer planet settings for these. So yeah, for me, it would mean they would have Pluto in my 12th house, which might mean I would need to reincarnate. So yes, because 12th house is your blind spot. Okay, and so this person can feel unseen or disempowered by you in a way that you don't even realize. And that is not good. But other than that, it's very good relief for these children. Like, they're going to do good. So yeah, thank you for watching.